hotel in New York City. It's called the Waldorf Astoria. And many years ago, there was this guy and his wife that went to get a hotel room in New York City, and there was a conference. So they go to this one hotel, and his clerk is there, and they said, we need a room. And the clerk says, all the hotels in the city are booked up, and there's no room. So this guy and his wife say, well, we really wanted to stay somewhere. And the clerk says, well, you know what? I got a room in the basement where I live, and I'm on duty all night long, so why don't you just stay in my place for a while? So that's what they did. The husband and wife went and stayed at this guy's place. So the next day, they go and I guess they pay the bill, whatever. And the guy says to him, the guy that stayed there, he says, you know what? You did such a nice thing. Someday, someone should build a hotel for you and make you the manager. And the guy laughed. You know, he thought he just did something to help somebody out. Well, years later, the guy gets a plane ticket to go from Philadelphia to New York City, and the guy meets him there, and he takes him to a corner where a brand new hotel was built, and it was the Waldorf Astoria, where people from around the world stay. And the guy says, I want you to be the manager of this place. So the guy did a good deed for somebody he didn't even know, and years later, it came back full circle, and came back to him. So, one other story that I heard today, on May 23rd, is going to be 143 Day in Pennsylvania. The New York State legislature, the politicians voted on this today, or they're going to vote on it. They're going to call it 143 Day. Anybody ever heard of a guy named Mr. Rogers?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Okay, he was like, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood."
Mine, could you be mine?
There you go.
Should be
I got a different version. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, because in all things work together for good. My God loved me so much, he established the work of the nails that the hands would touch. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Fire!
Anyway, so 143 to Mr. Rogers, he had a 143 club, because he says the name or the word I or I is one letter, okay? The word love is 4 letters. The word you is 3 letters. I love you. So he just went around all over the place, and you know what? All the problems in the world can be solved by love. Seriously. You can look at anything around, you can complain about anything, you can look at the guy in the White House, the guy over here, and all these people and all these other things, but if everybody speaks love and does love, like the clerk that all of a sudden the guy's the manager of a hotel because he did a good deed, it's a pretty cool thing. So, last week I gave you some things and I made a mistake. I gave you these little tickets here, these little cards. I want you to put them into your pocket and take them home. I realize that some of them will probably go through the wash because somebody's going to do your wash for you. Anybody here do their own wash?
I do my
Your own wash? Oh, come on, you guys are old heads. You don't know how. Right? So it might be in your wash, but I want you to take it with you because it's got some meaning to it. And what it's got on there is the 10 Commandments. Y'all, anybody ever heard of the 10 Commandments? Okay. All right. So there's 10 Commandments on how to live your life. I have a personal code of conduct on how I live my life. And it starts out with, I put God first, I put my wifey second, I put myself third. If I speak a word, I got to do a word. I remain teachable, and I approach all conversations as much as possible as if I'm ignorant. And you know why? Why would I want to be ignorant? Anybody?
To learn.
I want to be ignorant, that's it, to learn. So if I approach every conversation as if that person I'm talking to knows something that I don't know, I'm coming in pretending I'm ignorant. Because I don't want to come in saying I know it all. I know it all. You can't tell me nothing. Everybody you meet knows something you don't know. They can give you something better. So the 10 Commandments are on there, and I got this really cool thing here. It's kind of like, I don't know, but it talks about the 10 Commandments. And the first one says, you put God first, like what I have in my personal mission statement. You don't want to put anything else before God. Sometimes we make up our own gods. We make up our friendship, we make up money, we make up our own gods. When you put something before God, you're going to be in deep doo-doo. So, talks about money and power. It talks about, in number 2, don't have any idols. And it shows this guy playing like video games. Although this video game has a cord attached to the controller. Okay, it's a little bit old. Okay? It's not what they do now. But it's like, if your video game is your God, or your phone is your God, okay, you can't get off your phone. You can't put your phone down long enough to learn something from somebody. Okay? It becomes your idol. Number 3,
That's the one.
you shouldn't misuse the name of the Lord your God. I mean, you probably, if I told you the letters GD, you probably know what it means. Okay? People throw it around. People say, oh, Jesus Christ. Is that right?
No.
No. It's like, that's disrespect.
It is.
It's like, what if somebody said your name in like anger? Would you feel respected?
No.
No. So you don't say God's name. It's the same thing. It's disrespect. You move on to number 4. It says, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. The word Sabbath comes from an ancient word in Hebrew which meant Shabbat. The word Shabbat in Hebrew meant to take a rest in the Lord. So what God wants us to do is to like camp out and just chill sometimes and rest in Him. In Psalm 46, it talks about be still and know that I'm God. If your mind is going all the time, you ain't got time to let God filter in and the Holy Spirit talk to you. Sometimes you just got to chill. I got a mind that doesn't stop, but it's hard for me. Okay? I got like a scatterbrain. If you were to be able to look inside my head, it's like marbles going round and round and round and round. Sometimes I got to try and yank a marble and slow it down. I got to have a Shabbat. And really, when I come to church, I kind of shut down. Sometimes I close my eyes. It's like it's in worship or something. I close my eyes and block other things out. Number 5, honor your father and your mother. This is sometimes a hard one because sometimes our mothers and fathers are lousy mothers and fathers. It's hard sometimes. But what you got to know is they're doing the very best that they know how. They don't know any better. And maybe sometimes it's us that maybe teach them how to do something better. So if we approach our relationship with our mother and father as if we're like ignorant because we don't know any better, maybe we'll learn something about them. Most of the problems that I see that moms and dads have that filter down to us are generations long. Some families have like drinking problems. And all of a sudden, dad drank a lot. And all of a sudden, the son or the daughter's drinking a lot. Or maybe the dad was used to like hitting mom. Should a guy ever hit a lady?
No.
Never.
Soft.
Nobody should be hitting anyone.
There's no reason at all, right? But somehow, in families, those things happen. In my family, I told you before, I was adopted. My mom got married again. My dad was a great guy, but he was an alcoholic. In his older years, he would open up the refrigerator at night. He'd have like a whiskey in there and a bottle of beer. And first thing in the morning, he'd be drinking again because he got to the point he would have what's called the DTs. He'd be shaking, right? And it got to the point where his skin became jaundiced or yellow because he drank so much. Because he had liver failure. So it ended up killing him. And what happened with him, he had a stroke. He started to get rehab, but then the one night he gets up in the middle of the night, he goes into the bathroom, he falls, hits his head on the bathtub. He ends up with what's called a subdural hematoma, which is when there's bleeding between your brain and your skull. And the blood has nowhere to go, so basically cooks your brain. So you become a vegetable. And that's basically how he died. But before they had to do that to release the pressure, they take like a mini circular saw and go zzz, okay, to let the pressure out. So that was the end of him. He was a really good man, but somehow he had some fear inside him that he tried to medicate with the alcohol. He was a good man, but he had a problem. And I look at that now, I don't drink alcohol at all. Zero, zilch, nada. I did in my early years, but I made the decision, something's got to stop with me. I got to be a role model for my kids and other people. So I had to make a decision. So you got to honor your mother and your father. Okay, number 6, you shall not murder. You okay with that? Okay? Don't kill nobody. Sometimes you may have to get into a fight to defend yourself. Sometimes people go to battle to defend their country. But if you look at the Armed Forces Code of Conduct and you read it through, you will see that it talks about honoring God and country and maybe having to give your life and defend yourself. It also talks about if you're a prisoner of war, about name, rank, and serial number as much as possible. Okay? You should look up the Code of Conduct for the Armed Forces. It's an eye-opener. Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. This is like cheating. This is like if a guy's married to a lady's married to a guy, they don't go out with anybody else. In my life, with my wifey for lifey, we got both. We never go anywhere with someone of the opposite sex. We don't do it.
It's true.
We will not be seen together. Because years ago, I'm not going to tell you who they were, but there was people that in the public arena that were dirty. I shouldn't say that, I'm judging now. They committed adultery, and they were high-ranking people. And my sons asked me, well, do you think they're guilty or not? Because at that point we didn't know. And I said, let me quote Billy Graham, who said, if you are guilty of the appearance of impropriety, which means, do you look like you're doing something wrong? You might as well be guilty. Don't even get caught looking like you're doing something wrong. So that's just adultery. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't be around it. And if somebody's doing something wrong, in any one of these things they're doing something wrong, you try to correct your friend lovingly. But if they're going to keep doing it, I've cut off friendships because a guy was cheating on his wife. He was my best friend. I says, I can't be your best friend if you're going to continue to cheat on your wife. I can't be a part of that. So if you've got a friend that's stealing, it's going to rub off on you. I've seen it. I have seen people talking to me, talking about Jesus, homeless people down at St. Luke's shelter, and all of a sudden they're talking to me, they're feeling happy talking about Jesus, but their friends are over there with whiskey and cigars and a couple of other things, and all of a sudden she starts walking away from me and she says, oh yeah? Well, where was Jesus when I slept in an abandoned building last night? Where was Jesus? And all of a sudden she gets back with her buddies. What I saw, she walked away from me. It was almost as if I could see a shade of darkness and sin going on to her the closer she got to her friends. And they were laughing. They were laughing. So if you hang out with people that are doing things, it's going to rub off on you. Where are we here? Okay. Number 8, you shall not steal. You don't mind if I take your purse too? Should I steal anything?
No.
Do you remember the story I started with about a clerk that was kind enough to give up his own bed and what happened to him in the end? He got blessed. He got a reward. What's going to happen to you if you steal? What's going to happen to you if you lie? People are going to lie to you. People are going to steal from you. It comes back full circle. It's going to come back. So if you want to lose something that's really valuable, you steal from other people, I'm going to tell you it's going to come back. I noticed from experience, because in a youth center down at Holy Cross, we had phones stolen left and right. And the guys that were complaining the loudest were the guys that were stealing. And you know what eventually happened to them? Well, actually,
they're all stolen.
They got stolen, and some of them are actually dead. Okay? You steal from the wrong person, you pull something out, and that will be the end of you. In number 9, it says you should not give false testimony against your neighbor. Don't lie about your neighbor. If something is happening, and let's say you did something wrong, and you want to blame your neighbor, it's like you're doing the dirty. And that's going to come back on you too, because somebody will find out your lie. If you do something wrong, you got to fess up. Okay? For guys, we call it man up. I don't know, ladies, maybe you call it woman up. I don't know, I'm not a lady, so I don't know. But
woman up.
You gotta fess up. When you do something wrong, own up to it. It's okay. Things will go easier if you own up to what you do wrong. We all do stuff that's wrong. There ain't no human being that don't do a wrong thing.
You don't want to have, you don't want to have someone else face consequences for their actions.
Right.
Like I said, I wouldn't want to have Jeremy face consequences for my actions.
No. There are people in jail right now. A lot of gang members are in jail because somebody else pointed the finger at them and lied about it. There's guys doing a lot of time.
Oh, I've been there.
30 years in jail because somebody lied. And the last one, it says you shall not cover. Number 10 says you shall not cover anything that belongs to your neighbor. What that means is, it's like, you know what? I really like this purse. Okay? I'm feeling like I really like this purse. And when I get the opportunity, I'm going to take this purse. What's happened is, my thoughts are focused on something I want so bad. My mind starts telling myself, you know what? I'm going to make a plan to get it. That's coveting something. That's almost like making a mental plan to grab something that is not yours.
I can go ahead.
I probably look kind of funny with a purse anyway.
Well, yeah.
But the point is, you shouldn't be coveting things. So
I don't know about these days.
what I'm hoping, a couple of things before we introduce our speaker. On May 18th, this Saturday, we are having a field trip. Right now, we have about 30 tickets. The field trip is on Saturday morning. We leave here at about 8 o'clock. Has anybody ever heard of Frank Wright?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, if you don't use a football player, Frank Reich is known as the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills who had the greatest comeback in NFL history. Okay, this is the whole history. He's also an assistant coach, was an assistant coach for world champion Philadelphia Eagles, currently the head coach for Indianapolis Colts. He puts on this breakfast downtown at the Hyatt Regency. You get a breakfast, it's free, there's no cost, okay? So you go to this breakfast, you will hear inspirational stories, there'll be pro football players there. The quarterback from the Cincinnati Bengals, Andy Dalton, is gonna be this year's award winner. So, I mean, it's just cool. So it's free, we got permission slips, but you gotta be serious to sign up because you gotta be here at 8 o'clock. These tickets cost somebody $40. So somebody's forking over $40. So when you take a ticket, I mean, you're not gonna get a ticket till you show up and you're here, but don't even take a spot because we wanna make sure that people go, right? It's an awesome event. They show all kinds of videos. There's high school players that get awards. And just to hang out with professional football players that make millions of dollars, I thought maybe they would give us some, but no, I didn't say that.
Somebody
Well, you were
please.
trying to love it, Pastor Bob.
I think that's all I got. Our guest speaker tonight, our 9-minute speaker. We have